what an honor it is to cat I just connected with here at Hush Social Club, but he really put me in, kind of awed me with his boogaloo style, real greasy player. He's been doing it a long time in Tucson. Steve Simbari, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thanks.
Would you say you were an ear-trained musician, or did you, or did you learn to read music before you learned to hear music?
No, I took lessons first. It was by accident. My father signed up for lessons, and he forgot about him. So the lady showed up, and I was playing his guitar, and he came home, and the lesson was over. And he goes, "You need to sign this kid up." And I took about a year, and I got the basics. I got really lucky when I went to Dietz Elementary.
I love this. I've been to Tucson 20 years, but you are homegrown.
Oh, well, I was born on Coronado Island, California.
Wow.
But I came here in '61, so.
You were a kid at that? You were a boy?
I was 1 year old, and
okay, you went to Dietz though. What happened there?
there's this teacher there named Mr. Webb, and he had a band. He had a marimba band. The school had 20 marimbas.
Right.
So he had all these students playing. I was a new guy, and I could play guitar by the time I was in sixth grade. I've been playing for about a year, but I was second guitar. There's this one guy there who was really good. He never pursued it, but
Right.
and he taught us a lot of stage and a lot of stuff that stuck with me for years as far as stage etiquette, and then with the music and stuff. And we did a lot.
You're talking about the band director.
The band director. He was actually my teacher as well. I didn't find out for years later, 20 years later, that he was him and his brothers were famous jazz guys in Arizona, the Webb brothers. I didn't even know that.
I'm not hip to them either. That's so hip.
It was very. It was.
So
it
were they like beboppers or Dixieland cats?
No, they were bebop. They were serious people. And
Whoa, dude.
he was old when I went there.
How many brothers?
I think there was like 6 brothers in him.
No.
Yeah, if I remember correctly. But I've been playing jazz, and I'm telling the same story as like 25 years ago. And so he goes, Mr. Webb he set. Remember, it was Cass Preston who set me straight on it. And he's an old timer from way back.
You got to hook me up with that cat.
Oh, he's
Because I want to go back. The lineage.
Actually, he's not. He's still alive. He's 95 years old, but he's still alive.
Wow, that's old school.
Yeah.
So you had these. What kind of were you learning the American Songbook at that time, or were you making up original tunes in that band?
Oh no.
When did that first start happening for Simbari?
I started. I just wanted to be a sideman. I never wanted to be a front man or.
Sure, accompanist, total.
Yeah.
Garcia was like that. Jerry Garcia always wanted to be an accompanist.
I didn't. I wasn't looking to be a front. Even though I was a front man a lot of times, and I can sing, but I really don't enjoy it that much. Like some people who really just sing
their ass off.
Yeah. I like to sing once in a while, but I started. I started listening to music. I ever heard of the Frizzle or the Frisier. I got the Frisier with Judith Durham and the Seekers.
Wow. The Seeks.
Yeah, and I was like, it was paralyzed me. I was 6 years old. So, but then I just, I did the Beatles, of course, and then I got turned on to Hendrix and Clapton. Did the same thing, and then in the '70s, Ted Nugent, and then I found Michael Shankner and UFO. And I became a big fan of his, and I liked the way he played, and I transposed a lot of his stuff over into jazz and blues. Just the whole melodic beauty of his playing. I don't even know if you know who he is.
No, Shanker, I want you to talk about what you brought into the gumbo of jazz and blues.
Well, basically,
maybe for the audience, explain who he is too.
Well, Michael Shankner, he was of course the guitar player for UFO, and then he became MSG. He's still playing. He's the blonde bomber, white flying V, white and black flying V. I've got one of those, of course. But then I moved to the South, and everybody was playing Texas blues. Lonnie Mack, Texas blues.
Sure.
Everybody says, "Oh, you're playing Stevie Ray Vaughan." No, I'm playing Texas blues, Lonnie Mack style, and the Albert Collins style. That's what I'm playing. Stevie Ray Vaughan was a product, of course, he was the best. And matter of fact, I ran into, when I first got to Dallas, Texas, I was at the Ritz Rock and Roll Club, and Jimmy Vaughan was there with his band, and the lead singer, I can't think of his name right now. I thought he was a friend of mine from from Tucson. It's like, what are you doing here? I just saw you a week ago in Tucson. What are you doing here? It's like, who are you? I was like, and so I talked to him for a while, and then I used to go watch him play, and I moved to Oak Cliff, and everybody was playing that. So when I came back, it was really in vogue. He was playing the Stevie Ray Vaughan Texas Blues.
Dig.
And people say, you're playing like Stevie Ray Vaughan? I was like, no, I'm playing Texas Blues.
Well, you're playing Steve Simbari,
So,
right?
Right. So, you're right. I don't get me wrong. It was my shtick
I mean,
for a
everybody
while.
begs, borrows, and steals from
Yeah.
their heroes. But
Oh,
then,
yeah.
like, can you talk about how you've cultivated and learned to be comfortable with your own voice in music? I mean, it's the forever journey anyway.
Well, I've been playing since I was, like I said, 8 years old. And when I came back to Tucson in 1990, I just came off of playing out in the South, and I was pretty good. I thought.
Right.
You think you're pretty good.
Yeah, fucking
know,
woodshedded, yeah.
But when I came back to Tucson, I had been in the music scene before that when I was really young. The Night Train and Choo Choo's off of 4th Avenue, and
I would love to know about some of this history because I was
Oh.
born in '78.
Well, let me put it this way: you had the whole Speedway, you had the Somerset, you had all these great.
No, Lamont
rock
Arthur told me there were 25 clubs on Speedway. you know?
owned by the Daddy Jack, the same guy.
Right.
And
Was it Mafia Run?
No, I don't think so. There's only one club that I
Most of the cities were Mafia. I mean, the music was hip. It was
well,
yeah.
if he was, I didn't know anything about it, and you know what? I didn't want to know about it.
But you moved back in '90, and
So I moved back in '90, and I started going over to the blues jam over at Berkey's with Deacon. So I know everybody knows Deacon.
Deacon Bonham.
Well, I played there, and then I started playing with him. I started working for him, the core band. Brian Dean did it, Ted, all those guys you've interviewed, they've all been there. So
that's so beautiful.
well, the thing about it is, though, people would always complain that, well, we're playing with these amateurs or with this. Like, no, the beauty of it was the exercise. If you could go in there and make it work with the worst, when you're playing your gigs, there was very small room for failure.
Right.
So then you start getting comfortable because you're making this work, and you start to get the formula down, and you're making them feel comfortable. Especially when I was playing bass,
Well, I didn't know that. Yeah.
yeah. I didn't want to starve. So it was a real exercise in posture and how to face situations on stage without losing your mind in front of a bunch of people.
Would you? What was the most psychedelic band you've been a part of? And what I mean by that is like, just leaving the head of the tune and playing beyond what you know. To me that's my favorite music. And because I recognize with a formula, you're in front of, you got a steady gig, whatever, but sometimes I just feel like I'm watching too much of a formula trip sometimes.
Oh, well, sure. And you have to have the formula when you're playing particular gigs. If you're talking about getting out there and playing, well, of course, when you're younger, you're playing. All the garage bands are the jams.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? You're doing all that stuff. And back in those days, everybody played guitar. So it's like when I went back to Coronado for all the vacations, in San Diego. I was 13 years old, and I was playing guitar like a champ, and I'd go on the beach and you had all these sailors couldn't play, but they had these beautiful Les Pauls and Strats, these little pig-nosed
Dude, this
amps.
is beautiful. This is so
And
like
they're
the early
like,
70s?
wow. Yeah, early 70s. Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God, this is
so
fantastic.
San Diego Beach or Coronado, and it's like, wow, it's like, that's a nice guitar. Would you like to hold this, son? Sure. You get there, like,
They couldn't play though. They were just.
they couldn't play, but you smoke them, and they'd be like, and your summer was set. For the rest of the summer, you were going out to their parties on the beach because they were
Dude, I'm
playing.
loving
it was
this.
great. So, but the most psychedelic band we were doing is.
That was actually a gig. I mean, maybe those kinds of bands don't, outside of dead cover bands, they don't make money. I don't know.
I would say the most psychedelic one I ever did, it was the most fun, was with Randy Clemens.
Wow.
We went. He was.
Wow. Yeah, I know the name.
Yeah, he was top dead center, but it's when he had his I think his Sunday hut thing going on.
Yeah.
And he'd invite me out there to play 12 string. Because I could play 12 string when I was a real young kid. I was taught that by everybody played 12 string when you're in 1970. So I go up there and we'd be playing, and then we go into these jams, and I'd be playing the 12 string, and they'd be playing, and it was all set up the way from the 60s, that 60s type of aura, and it was really a beautiful thing, especially when you had that 12 string just, with the new technology, making it sound angelic. It was really, that was a lot of fun, and I really miss Randy. He was just such a great guy. Too bad you never got a chance to meet him. Good guy.
Yeah, he passed on.
He passed
Oh,
on.
rest in peace. And anybody who plays, Grateful Dead music, I appreciate a lot. Where do you feel like you need to grow the most in your life, either on the bandstand or personally?
Well, I've been playing a lot. When COVID started,
Yeah.
I started playing a new style. I started studying, which I wanted to do for a long time, because I could play it before, but I really wanted to nail it down. And it's been 3.5 years, and I'm still maybe a quarter of the way through, but neoclassical metal, a lot of the neoclassical style, which transfers right over to the jazz, but I wanted the speed and stuff, but I think right now, and I think every musician in this country would agree, right now I think the one thing we need to build on is getting it back to where it was before. They destroyed the music scene with COVID.
And you know what? I don't know if it's just the Swiss cheese of not just the economy, but all the clubs. I mean, in Europe, they subsidize all the clubs,
Sure.
Even the jazz clubs. I mean,
Right.
they appreciate art. They understand that it's a viable profession.
Right.
Do you feel like a musician is seen in 2023 as a viable profession? I'm not talking about Tower of Power or Steve Miller or Alice Cooper. I'm talking about the idea of like cultivating original spiritual music. It's never been great, but I just wonder now. Like you said, they destroyed it. Is musicians still seen as a viable profession?
I think that you get these guys who are really great. A lot of these young guys, and it's surprising, but I think they're few and far between. Because, like I said before,
Where are the bands?
Well, like I said before, you could fall over guitar players back in the 70s. I mean, everybody learned how to play.
Right.
I mean, that was the internet back then. You know what I'm saying?
Rolling the Bob Marley.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and everybody had a guitar. Every kid had a guitar in the neighborhood, and it was really great when those kids lost interest in playing, because I would come and sweep their stuff back. But you had such a large amount of people throwing into the hopper, and then you had these great musicians coming out, and there's a lot of great musicians that came from my own neighborhood that are big guys in this town or in Arizona or even national. But I think that it's such a lack of interest. These kids have just been so used to this homogenized music that I think it would scare them if they got any frizzer from the music today. So
Actually, like Voltage would scare the shit out of
it
them.
would scare them to death.
Damn!
It's the truth.
You just nailed it, man.
Well, unfortunately,
Wow.
a lot of the work that everybody did all these years, and
I mean, it's always been a racket. I'm just saying.
Sure, of
I don't
course.
see. I see my friends that are road dogging it, playing original music, and you said before joking about roadies. They're playing. They used to be able to go out for a month. Now with COVID, you're down about 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
2.5 weeks. They have zero stagehands, so basically they have to set up their gear, play a fucking burning instrumental, no vocals.
Well, welcome to that reality, because that's going to happen for the next 40 years. You'll be carrying your own stuff.
Right. So you think we're on that kind of learning, like that curve? It's going to take that long to really see the seeds of whatever's being planted every day.
Well, even when the economy was bad in regular times, the bands, everybody watching the bands anyways, they all show up at the jams, or they show up. I mean, they wouldn't be drinking as much, but they still wanted to, they still wanted to feel frischer. But and they didn't have the technology. Of course, technology keeps them in their house. But
That's right. That's right. I try to use it to connect humanity.
Exactly.
I dig. But I'm just saying, I wish
Sure.
more people recognize that. Well, it does. It sucks us all in. But anyway, go ahead.
The only way a band is going to make a day, and this is common knowledge, and everybody's going to go, people look at music with their eyes now. They listen to it with their eyes. They don't listen to it with their ears anymore. So
That's right.
if
That's
you
right.
got a look and you got a shtick, and it doesn't make a difference what the music sounds like, you could have a boom box, and I swear to God, some of these people are going to make it. So making it should be taken out of the equation, because you should just, I hate that you should do it for the love of the music, because most people heard me now say that 25 years ago. They would have said, I can't believe he just said that, because it was about going out there and being paid for your talent,
Right.
But the money was out there, and we weren't. Just don't be afraid to ask for it. But now, I'm just happy that my brothers who are alive.
Where is their money not? What kind of music is not available budgetary wise anymore? What has been, what type of music?
Oh, jazz, of course.
They'll bring Zakir Hussein and Edgar Meyer in here, for a one-nighter at the Fox Theater. I'm just talking I'm even talking about the idea, Mahavishnu Orchestra. I've dear friends with Billy Cobham. I've interviewed Rick Laird, rest in peace.
Sure.
Jan Hammer. Those guys were driving. They were playing college gyms.
Sure.
Because they'd actually get a better cut if people showed up at those, and this, they're wearing Kansas State shirts
Right.
and things like that. But they did a lot of road dogging, and there was a commerce-based record industry, which obviously there's none of. So you can't make a living
No,
doing
you can't. Those guys who are still doing that and who are my age and older,
it. Yeah.
that's an addiction.
But where's their head at? Are they a piece, or are they just
Hitting the road all the time?
No, what I'm saying, it's an addiction, which can take you really high and can also leave you low.
Oh, well, it is. It does. When you're on the road, being on the road, being in a different town. They still have the Route 66 mentality from back in the day when it was great to travel.
Sure.
Because when you travel and you show up with a band, everybody show up. It was,
and the pay for there was no merch table, so the gig pay was good.
It was decent. It was decent. You're never going to get rich. And,
Better than now.
Oh, so much better than now.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
That's the point. No, there hasn't been a cost of living increase since about '84.
Well, the thing about it is, though,
What's up, Jamar?
Why should when you start getting mothers, my son can play he can play Guitar Hero really well. I think he's he'll be a
Guitar
great
Hero.
he'll be a great typist, you know what I'm saying? But it's that's the mentality, and if you can't, back in the day, part of the high was you're playing and people are just looking at you amazed. Wow, that's really great. Now if you amaze them, they get ticked off, especially the young people. If they can't do it, then
Wow.
then it really is.
You're talking about how old's your son?
What's that?
How old's your son?
My sons are 30 and 31. They're really great musicians.
You're talking about the millennial generation.
I'm talking about anybody who really was.
Because I look at it like this. I at 45, I'm looking. Our generation. I had 20. Well over 20 plus years of my life with no technology.
Sure.
So we totally had to listen with our ears.
Well, you were one of the lucky ones.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is, people now are visual, they're taking it in visually. They're not letting the body dance, so to speak. You have to get back to letting the body dance through the ears.
Fissure. That's exactly right.
What's that word you keep using? I love that.
Fissure is when.
How do you spell that?
Fissure.
Fissure.
When you're playing a lead and you all of a sudden you get that. You get connected with the universe. You feel the beam. That's called fissure. Or when you listen to a great song and I've seen you. You start growling because you're just that. You got that feeling. That's fissure.
Climax.
That's fissure.
Same. So the fissure, I think of a fissure as some breaking apart.
Sure.
This is a different spelling.
Exactly. It's. I think it's spelled that way. Yeah.
So and that's a word in the dictionary. I really want.
I'm sorry.
F-I.
I'm sorry. Let me spell that.
F-I-Z-Z?
I think it's F-I-S-S-L-E. Fissure, something like that.
All right, we're gonna figure it out.
Right.
One final question for you.
But like I said, that feeling you get when you're playing, that's what brings you back to the stage. That's what gets you practice, because you're feeling really, all of a sudden, the swell comes up and you hit that note and you're there and you're like, oh my God, this is kick-ass. And exactly, and you feel the beam and you thank the good Lord for that. And but people you can't get that in today's music.
Right. People too scared?
I don't think they've ever felt it. So if they felt
Dude,
it, they'd want it.
They would, right?
They surely would.
Fuck. Yo, you have really one final question, dude. When did you start playing with Jamar, and when was the first time you started playing with Jamar and Bo?
Oh, I've been playing with Jamar for over 20 years.
When you basically you moved back in '90, but you met him like 10 years later or something.
I met him about 10 years later. I worked at a guitar store for about 3.5 years, guitars, etc. back in the day. So I met a lot of people.
By the way, those stores, I interviewed Skunk Baxter earlier this year.
Yeah.
Those repair shops were essential places for meeting.
Oh, they had the best. The best.
You would meet.
luthiers.
He met Tim Buckley. He's like, yo, I need a bass player. He's on tour with it. Nobody knows Skunk played bass with Buckley,
Yeah, you had some really big time people that that were coming to
But
those
there's
stores.
just meeting grounds, you know.
Yeah.
Those places don't exist now. You got to make an appointment. It's one-on-one.
I got pictures of all kinds. Well, a lot of times when the big stars would come in and they're giving clinics, they come down to the stores. You hang out with them. You got to know them. You got to pick their brains.
Right.
And, if you weren't drooling on them, you know what I'm saying. So
Compose yourself.
exactly.
Yeah.
But so
Jamar.
back in the South, when I was playing this, I was playing a lot of Robert Cray stuff because I really liked Robert Cray.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of the black community come up and ask me to play because I could hit those notes. They're like, "You from the South?" I said, "No, I live there, but I know this. So I know the licks." And so I started getting hooked up with Nod and Don Nottingham.
Nah,
and,
dude.
yeah,
Legend.
all right, and Jamar, everybody, and a lot of them are dead. But I've been working primarily with speak of the devil.
There he is. Hard at work.
So I was working primarily in the black community, and I met a lot of people, and a lot of great people, and played a lot of great music. And it really has taken me to places other than rock. And
It's pushed you out of your comfort zone.
Well, I never was in a comfort
I'm not
zone
saying
because
that, but it's exposed you to music maybe you
even-
otherwise wouldn't.
Well, I already was playing that music. What they do is said, okay, this is the way you're supposed to play it.
Dude, Simbari is a mess. So, let's do this again, man. It was such a ball. But I look forward to burning tonight, and I appreciate
Sure.
your spirit and also your ability to articulate some of these
And
issues.
you're gonna join me in some catfish later on, right?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Steve Simbari.
Hush, the best catfish in town, hands down.
It's the Jake Feinberg Show. We'll see you later.